morning. I believe that all you guys are seeing me and listening me in perfect conditions. Otherwise, please chat. So, welcome to this session that we carefully organize to those interested in learning more about the EIC Accelerator. An instrument that most of you is designed to push and scale small and medium enterprises. Well, in the recent years, mostly startups, to investing in highly risky breakthrough innovations. My name is Bruna Fonseca. I will be your host in the following hour, more or less. I am the responsible of the European team of FI Group at Portugal. FI Group, I believe that most of you know, is a consultancy company that, well, among other services, supports innovation by raising public funding to our clients. But I am also a member of FI Group's International Grants Department, the IGD. So the IGD is the multinational department of our group, FI Group, that gathers around 20 consultants dedicated to international funding opportunities, meaning we match and we gather clients all over the world among our list of almost 13,500 clients. I believe I'm not mistake. So, in fact, this department leverages the transnational character of the group by promoting an effective partner search, which sometimes is difficult for other companies that don't have this character, this transnational character, by scouting and matching the skills of our clients. Nevertheless, we are not only dedicated to international and European public funding, we also advise clients through national R&D grants, investment, funding, always from application to receipt. The public financial tool is available for all kinds of entities, large companies, SMEs, startups, technological centers, research bodies, and universities, for instance. So to finish this short intro, and before giving the floor to our speakers, let me share with you some figures, interesting figures about FI Group. We have 37 offices across 11 countries and 12 countries and 3 continents. There aren't 12 continents. FI Group has more than 1,200 qualified employees. We have engineers and PhDs also with expertise that covers every scientific field, at least we believe so. And to the date, as I told you before, we gather 13,500 innovative clients interesting us. And we have secured in saving for clients around 1,300 million euros to date. So, what about our webinar? Well, today we join here 3 senior experts from our International Grants Department, the transversal department that I told you about, all of them with great experience in the European framework of research and innovation, actually known as H2020. In 2021, the Horizon Europe. We are waiting for him. We have Hugo Choupina from Portugal, Luz Narvaez, I believe we say so, like this, from Spain. This is the accent. And, well, this is French, worse for me. Stépahnie Albiero from France. We do work on collaborative proposals in the H2020, but we also, and these 3 guys invest great time and effort to help startups and SMEs to be successful, I believe, in the most wanted funding instrument of H2020, the EIC Accelerator, former or also known as SME instrument. And that's why we are dedicating this session to it. So, especially between the path between the Seal of Excellence, which is awarded by the Commission to those champions that not get funded due to budget exhaustion, actually, and the interview phase. So to do that, we also join us Verónica Orvalho, which is, well, this is my personal opinion, a great human being, but also the CEO of Dirimo, a wonderful startup awarded with several prizes. leveraging either private and public funding, correct me, Veronica, if I'm wrong, including around 1.9 million euros in the SM instrument in 2019, right?
Yes.
Okay. Before giving the floor to Veronica, we will do a poll of 30 seconds. So we will, I would say, do a question to our audience, which is, what is your experience with the EIC Accelerator? So we would like to know if you are either a grant winner or a Seal of Excellence recognition, or neither of these two, or meaning never applied. We are giving you 30 seconds to answer, and then we will share the results with you. Oh, I can answer also. Oh, I don't. Can I share? Okay, so a lot of people willing to apply. And also some of you with the Seal of Excellence and willing to know a little bit more about this path between both stages. So to do that, and because Veronica has experiences in this up and down before getting the funding, I will give the floor to Veronica. As I told you, she is the CEO of the DIMO, whose groundbreaking research is around computer graphics, right? A new way to interact virtually. But mostly Veronica, and importantly in this EIC Accelerator, she is a dreamer, a professor and a mom. So Veronica, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much for this kind invite, and Bruna, thank you so much for your kind words in particular. Just before I start, just to say that with Bruna, we spent many nights working on the proposal in the first submission. So I think getting the SME for us, I think for every company will be different, but for us, I think I can just summarize it in one word, and it's pretty much grit. So without grit, we would have never got the proposal accepted. And the beauty of it was not just the grit on our side as a company to submit and resubmit, but it was the confidence from Bruna and her team back then to say you need to resubmit. It's not probably normal to submit more than 4 times your proposal. And so I think grit was the element that took us to succeed and getting the SME granted. So before I start, so what we do is we have this vision of making the world, the digital world, more human. So behind that big sentence is a lot of technical complexity. So we create digital humans that eventually can bring to life face-to-face conversation in a more human way when we are on the digital space. And based on that vision, we had to build a whole business model. So I was given 3 key questions, which I think are the ones that are interested here for this webinar, which is how many submissions we've done, what was the scoring trend, and how it is related either with the form or the business company evolution. So I think the submissions, as it took us about 2 years probably to get it accepted, reflected the growth of the company. And in each submission, we've improved based on how we were getting better and better. So in the first submission, it was all about the whole vision and the whole idea, but we clearly transmitted that, but our business model was very green and very raw. Even though we had from the very beginning, we had excellent partners in the proposal, so we had a very clear partners with whom we were going to execute them. But I guess we failed in probably transmitting how we were going to be this $10 billion dollar company. So it wasn't clear how we were going to be really just profitable, I guess. But we always succeed in transmitting the potential of what this vision had. The challenge for us is that there was no clear need. We are creating a technology that pretty much doesn't exist for a need to someone that doesn't know they need it. So that made the whole proposal so difficult to frame, right? Because you're saying, I'm going to change a paradigm. I'm going to change how people is going to connect in the digital world. So there's no way you can compare to other businesses, how they become profitable. How do you monetize? How do you create a business model? Because there's no such a thing. So by doing that, and in the next proposals, we've polished our relationship with our partners, and we figure out a way on how we were going to be monetizing, which was going to be the business model, how it's going to look like. So we went from that very strong vision that we had into, I would say, actionable items, right? So how do we actually go from a vision or an idea into a proper business model? So I would say that that was the trend of how we've improved proposal as proposal. So if I were a company, if I would look back and I would resubmit it again, I would say that we were too early when we make the first submission. But the beauty of applying so early is that you get expert feedback and you're working with a team that actually helps you build your business. So what I saw is by rewriting and working through these proposals, it also helped our thinking process on how we should tackle the business. So it was kind of like a way of moving the needle from idea to business, because the submissions would say the market is not clear, the clients are not clear, the business model is not clear. So you're like, okay, let's work on that, and it really helps you push the business forward. And then I think we also had a proposal that is either you like it or you don't. So either you understand it or you don't. So at the very beginning, so that also made it very hard to be evaluated. And I think that was why our scoring went up and down, right? So either someone could see the long-term vision, like we say, like, 5 years from now, everyone is going to have their digital humans, and they're going to be controlling it, and they're going to be able to use it as a representation of themselves, right? So that's a very strong statement. So either you fall in love with it or you don't, right? So this being said, I think you have to find, when you write your proposal, what is that key thing that is so true to yourself that will make another person fall in love in your proposal and with your project as much as you and your team does, right? So it's that I'm in love with what I do, right? Which is your passion. So that, I think that needs to go through. And I think that's what we've achieved in the last version of the proposal. And what it helped was because I spent in particular like a whole summer doing a full rebranding, understanding our brand. So, and what is that? The brand is not just hiring a company to help you put images or nice pictures into your proposal. It's really having the courage of going deep inside your own self, if you're a founder, to understand who you are, which are your values, and then having someone that understands how to do branding to translate those values into a way that other people will understand them, right? So we went through that exercise for it took us about, I think, about 4 months, and I've involved our key investors, shareholders, key senior team members from DDMO, and together we distill who we were and why we were doing what we were doing. And then with the branding agency we hired, they help translate that and put it into words. And I think that was the difference into the 4th submission, right? If I'm not mistaken, yeah, that was the 4th submission. And I think that make a huge difference, but still we didn't make it. We got a high, I think we actually even, I can't remember if we went up or down on the scoring, but I think that that was what made the difference, and we were really happy with the submission. Still, it wasn't approved, and that's when I say grit is what really took us to the crossing line. And in the very last submission, we only did just minor changes to really polish the business model. And Hugo can probably help me remember a little bit, but I think it was just like really just minor changes, and faith that now someone would actually understand what we were trying to do. And that was our last submission. So if I summarize, I would say, and I repeat it, I think grit is what will take you to crossing the line. Having a very clear vision, an idea, long term, right? Going from the idea to a business model that can become profitable, and so you gotta demonstrate it, right? And then finally be able to transmit all that information in a manner that people can digest it easily, right? And the proposal needs to be perfect in all its sense. And so even though imaging is not key, it might be the differentiator to make it cross the line. We've also improved in the process everything related to IPR, IP protection. So we've had a map of patents, and we make it really clear how that should work. And then I don't know if it's for now or for after, we're happy to chat about it, is what happens after you actually get invited to the interview, right? How do you prepare that proposal, which is pretty much you start again, right? So it's in our sense was we prepared everything. I hope I didn't extend it too much. I think I tried to do my 10 minutes brief, but do let me know, Bruna, how you guys want to continue. I hope this was clear and helpful. Yeah.
Yes, it was. It was. That is the idea, to explain the audience in the first person. How can this path be, well, not so long, because in time we are talking about, well, it is long. 1 year, 2 years?
Yeah, 2 years.
It is a long time. But actually, to those that are having the seal of excellence in the moment, to have the grit, to understand that you can go up and down, up and down. There are a lot of factors influencing the evaluation process, and some of them are very emotional. And it is not the end. If you are receiving a seal and then maybe a lower score, maybe in the next time you will be awarded. And that was the idea, because I believe that you are a great example of how it can goes up and down, and finally receiving the award. So let me ask you to be with us for the next minutes and join our roundtable that is integrated by, as I told you, Hugo Choupina. Hugo Choupina is Portuguese, a team member of FI Group here in Portugal, where two of us are based. He has master degree both in business economics and biomedical engineering. Luz, from our Spanish team, holding a degree in industrial engineering and a considerable expertise in business strategy, right, Luz? She also knows quite a bit about the EIC Accelerator. And Stépahnie. Stépahnie gathers now 10 years of experience in project management and consultancy. And she has a Master of Business Administration, and she's based in FI Group France. So these are our speakers, 4 speakers, all of them gathering significant experience, different but significant, in the EIC Accelerator. For you guys, feel free to raise your hands and debate whenever you feel like. The most enthusiastic debate, I believe, for those that are listening to us. So my first question is to 3 of FI Group expertise, and I would like to hear a few words about Didimo's journey. What do you think about Veronica's and Didimo's journey? And what are, in your point of view, the milestone events on this journey? So maybe we can start in equity balance by Hugo, promoting, and then Luz and Stépahnie be my guests to also do your comments, please.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. Hi, Veronica, once again. So it's always a pleasure to speak with you and to have the possibility of going through the journey, the EIC journey, which is not a linear path. Okay, it's not a linear path, as we just heard. It's up and downs, and we have to be committed above all and beyond. So it's marvelous, the journey that Didimo has took and is taken now, boosting up and growing with the support of the European Commission. And that being said, digital communication is tough to translate, is tough to perceive, and that was one of the main challenges that that we had. So in order to be able to transpose towards what Didimo is and explain that in a quick and fashionable way, that was one of the milestones that I think we were able to do. Okay. And above and beyond, for me, I think that the rebranding process that took in the middle of the journey was the decisive moment, because we gave a step back to go 2 steps ahead, and that was the nail in the coffin, like we can say, to put the proposal on a new complete level. And of course, when we have a CEO that is so dedicated, that has the amount of passion and belief in a product, that is easily perceived when we go through the application, and then when Veronica got to the interview. So I would highlight the rebranding because it was the moment that aligned everything from the solution to the market to the project itself. That was the highlight for me, I think.
Luz?
Yeah, well, we had similar experiences to Veronica's. For example, we had like 2 or 3 projects up to 13 scored for 5 or 6 times. This is exhausting, of course, because as Veronica mentioned, it took like 2 years to prepare all these proposals. And in my opinion, you of course need to just don't give up and try it again and again. For example, our starting point for our resubmission on the first time or the 5th one is to start with the European Commission feedback in terms of time to company, in terms of business model that they already mentioned, that is quite important. But also detect those critical points that are not inside this evaluation feedback. For example, the European Commission changed a lot in October, for example, with the transition between the SM instrument to EIC Accelerator. But they don't change the template of the proposal. It was not that change. It was more a focus related with the type of company that they want to fund, related with the project structure, etc. So I think the starting point to this lots of resubmissions and to achieve the next step between the seal of excellence and the interview is just to analyze in detail, and also sometimes to analyze if you still fit the grant, because if it took 2 years, maybe at the end, maybe you don't fit in terms of TRL or in terms of non-bankability. The state of the art can change in 2 years. So I think the first that you have to do is an analysis, an in-depth analysis by your side, and also reading all these messages that the European Commission gives to you.
Okay, thanks, Luz. Yeah, kind of not a first-person experience, but other experience similar that goes for more or less the same milestones events.
Yes.
So would you like to say something also?
Yes, sure. I mean, Veronica, there is one sentence that you said that actually struck me, is when you mentioned the fact that you need to get the proposal phrased in a way that it's easy to understand. You're totally right in that one, and that's something very difficult to do, especially when you submit for the first time. And if you do that when not supported by someone or a company who has experience, in the sense that you're so much tech focused, let's say, on, you know, what are your development, what are you trying to achieve, what are you trying to do, that sometimes the terminology is not adapted to all kind of evaluators. And knowing that the jury and the evaluators comes from different profiles and background, it's important to find the right, you know, the in-between way to present things while keeping it attractive and showing also the uniqueness from a technological point of view. So I think this is really important. That plays a huge role when you submit a proposal, making a difference between one proposal which is not granted towards one who actually got either the seal of excellence or go even through the entire process, meaning the interview and the signature. So yeah, I think this is for me one of not milestone, but one important point to keep in mind, that sometimes you have to take a step back and reformulate again until you reach that point that is right in the middle and allows it to go through.
Okay, great. So we should move for the next question that I have for you guys. And I believe that besides Steph, that I will ask to, before giving the floor to other colleagues, to recap a little bit about the EIC evaluator process. I believe that at the end, also Veronica can speak a little bit about her experience in the interview phase, because we are more or less finishing the evaluator process there. So maybe Veronica, now you can say to the others a few words after Stépahnie, please, a few words about what about the interview experience. So Steph, you take the floor, and then Veronica can.
Gladly. Yeah, I think it's actually quite important also seeing the results from the poll. So most of the attendees yet do not have this whole experience of the entire process. So very quickly, basically the EIC proposals are evaluated in 2 steps. Meaning that once your proposal has been submitted in step 1, the proposal will be evaluated remotely by 4 independent experts with different profiles, but also different kind of expertise in, for example, technology or a specific industry sector, or again, business and finance. Coming back to what I said with regard to the phrasing, it's important that everyone can understand your proposal. Then the proposals are ranked in descending order, and the best scores get funded until the available budget is exhausted. And once evaluated, all the applicants are informed about the outcomes through the participant portal with a letter and an evaluation summary report. The companies that then pass the initial stage, or stage 1, will then receive an invitation 1 to 2 weeks prior to the interview to pitch their innovation project in front of a panel of jury of experts, consisting of, once again, different profiles, such as, for example, private investors, business angels, and other players from or in the innovation ecosystem. So this step 2 complements really the paper-based assessment in order to take full account of the personal qualities and the motivation of the applicant and the team, of course. At this stage, around, let's say, 50% of the companies will get selected for funding. Once you've done step 2, and that's a major part when it comes to this blended finance notion. So the successful applicants that have been offered blended finance, meaning subvention or grant and equity, will receive, in addition to the grant preparation agreement to be signed with the European Commission, an invitation to negotiate the union equity support from the EIC fund. And basically, in order to validate and to operationalize the investment, the EIC fund will liaise with the applicant to start what they are calling a due diligence process, which aims at identifying any potential red flags that may be associated with a company, also at further assessing the risk of the equity investment, and basically at defining its main characteristics. And once a due diligence has been made on the basis of the results, the EIC fund will either invest directly or search for co or alternate investors among a community of pre-checked, of really trusted investors interested in investing in your project. Of course, the company, just to reassure everyone, the company will always have a final say in accepting or not a co or alternate investor. And in the absence, of any such investor, the EIC fund will provide the investment directly. So that's basically to give you an overall idea of what the process looks like from the submission until you get actually awarded with either the grants or the grants and the equity part. So I hope it answers your question, Bruna.
Yes, it did. So, yeah, yeah.
So I think the main change from when we did our submission to the current submission is that we had the fortunate of being able to prepare the slides for the presentation once you knew you were going to go to the interview. And that's, in my opinion, it's a pity that they've changed it, because it was a plus for the candidates, right? First, you don't have to spend that extra time thinking about the presentation before submitting it. And then your business usually, as a startup, even if it's only 2 months or 3 months, evolves significantly, right? So it's a shame. So given that said, I would encourage a lot, when you prepare the presentation, to also allocate time to carefully prepare the presentation, because I had the pleasure of, looking at some of the pitches of some companies and trying to help them out prepare for their interview. And my honest opinion is that those presentations were not ready at all to be presented in a winning manner. So then what it happens is you have the slides that you have, and you gotta redo your pitch, kind of like with a visual support material that probably is not the most adequate. So my first recommendation is to really spend time. Your submission is not finished until you have a successful presentation also prepared. And by successful presentation, I mean the written script of what you're going to be saying the day of the presentation. It's not just putting 10 slides together. It's actually writing exactly what you're going to say, because then that will drive what your slides are going to look like, right? And I can probably spend just 40 minutes just talking about how to do a pitch, but because I don't think it's the purpose of the webinar. But if I would just highlight maybe the key thing, the obvious ones are the ones that are taken out from the presentation, from the proposal, which is, why, how, and what you're doing, what you're doing. But there's one slide that I think it makes the difference for us, which was a clear ask on why we wanted the funding or the investment, right? Exactly why, and what am I going to do with that investment? And in our case, that why we were asking for the investment or the funding of the grant was pretty much we wanted. Sorry, just I have people popping up in the office when they weren't supposed to. Anyway, so the main key in order for sorry, I lost my track. So what I was going to say is that the ask that we said is, we already had an investment fund, but we didn't want to dilute ourselves by new investment. So we wanted the grant in order to help us build the traction we needed until our next investment round. So I was very clear, and that's an acceptable answer. So think about why you want the investment from the EU, and what are you going to do with that investment, and what is going to help your company push to the next level of where you are at. So that would be kind of like my key additional slide that people usually don't think about when they write it.
Can you tell us just a little bit more about Okay, I have the micro. About the specific experience, like when you go into the room, what is
Yeah,
well, actually nowadays it is different. Maybe we should have our virtual as human to go to
yeah,
the
but
interview in this
yeah,
state.
maybe it will change. But I think it's all about the vibes that you take to that meeting. So our interview was the very first slot in the afternoon. So either people was really happy because they have just had lunch, or they were too tired if they ate too much. But it was a good slot, really. It wasn't the last one in the morning, or it wasn't the last one of the day. So that helped, I think. Um, and again, I think it's the vibes that you go into it. It was a long process, so I was like, we're gonna win it. I could feel it. I don't know how to explain it. I wanted it so badly that I think that was clearly transmitted. And the other thing that happened is in those 2 months we had several good news that helped the company. So when I walked into the meeting, the proposal was already obsolete in that sense, and I was managing to show some of the things that we wanted to achieve during the proposal or the execution of the project that we had already achieved it. So that also helped a lot. I also, you have about, I don't know now if it's virtually, but when I did it, I had about an hour of time to go to the EU building, and you have the list of the panel. So I immediately Googled them in LinkedIn and kind of tried to know who was who and what were their strengths and what was their know-how. So I make sure that especially during the questioning process and even during the presentation, depending on the part of the presentation I was speaking to, I would try to do eye contact with each of them. So I try to talk directly to each person. And then I think it was about 6 people that we had in the panel at the end. So the questioning stage is really important. So you want to make sure that you don't take forever to answer the questions. You got to be really spot on, short, quick, really positive questions. So even if they're asking you a question that is kind of like, what is your why are you better than your competition, right? Typical question. Just translate that question, answer it, but then translate it really fast into a positive thing, right? And then move on. So you give time to every person in the panel to ask questions. uh, I think it was 10 minutes. I did my presentation in 9 minutes and 15. So that also 15 seconds. So that also showed that it was not rushed. I didn't talk about everything that they were expecting to us to put in the presentation. So you leave room for questions. So you kind of you gotta try to guide and know the questions that are gonna come, right? And then everyone had so much time to make questions, and then at the end we were like a minute left, and I even said, please do ask me more questions. You know, it really helped us improve our company. You know, it's not every day that you have a chance to have 6 experts in front of you actually pretty much giving you feedback. So if I would say, it's just don't walk into the room saying, oh my god, I'm being evaluated. Just walk into the room. Is 6 people are going to help you move your business forward despite of the result. So that mentally already puts you in a different space. And you just, if you can just transmit that and the enthusiasm of your business, I think that really makes the difference. I don't know, I was really happy. So when it took us so long to actually try to get the interview, I wasn't going to waste a minute on it, you know. So I was really happy, and I think that shows, right? Maybe also, as many of you are here and you're starting your own companies, you probably talk to hundreds of investors. You get no by default, right? So the no is a default. So who cares about the no, right? You just care about those that actually are interested about your business. And if you get to the interview, it's because the 6 people that are there are going to be interested about your business. So make the most out of that situation, I guess. I don't know.
Great, great.
I hope I answered the question. Maybe I extended it too much.
No, yeah. Great advice in grade 5, which, well, it seems silly sometimes, but it is truly important. So moving forward to Hugo and Luz, I would like you to, well, both of you approach the theme and the subject, but I would like you to explore a little, that you both can explore a little bit more your experiences with similar cases with the demo, similar cases like the demo. So going up and down, people that you helped being awarded with the Seal of Excellence, and then to the interview phase, either talk about the experience, what were the main challenges, and trying to recap where are those, well, I'm actually also always saying milestones, but yeah, milestones and events, important events on the, so Luz, maybe you want to go first now. You already shared a little bit. Unmute your micro.
Yeah, well, as I mentioned, we had several experiences with up and down. Sometimes the scores gets 2 points down and you didn't change that much. But, well, we can forget the subjectivity of the evaluation of the EIC process as a whole. That's true, and sometimes is the moment or the lucky, or sometimes are the evaluators, because they change in each cutoff. But also our point, as I mentioned, was the critical points. Sometimes it was the TRL that wasn't explained as much as is needed, and they think that you are not in a good point to submit. But also sometimes it's the IPR, like in the case of Veronica. So it's a very, very important section, especially, for example, for the ICT proposals that not always related with this IP as a patent. So yeah, we have a lot of situation. That's why I think you cannot give up with this grant, because it's very difficult to achieve it. The success rate is really low. But at the end, if your project fails and you have a unique project with a strong business model and a great team to achieve these goals, I think you can have a chance to do it. So I think it's more detecting these pains in your proposal, but also inside your company. So at the end is to share your idea and your team, and how are you going to do it in a good way to someone that maybe doesn't know think about your technology. Of course, I think the pitch, as my colleagues mentioned, is key for this change. You have to not only rephrase the proposal, it's cut off. Now you have to rephrase everything. You have to review your numbers in the Annex 4. You have to review your pitch in detail. So I think it's a starting point. It's time you submit your proposal, and also you have to look at it with very critical eyes. That works in our last situations, when the Seal of Excellence was like 2 or 3 times the Seal of Excellence, and you cannot reach this interview phase. So yeah, I think that's the key.
Well, before giving you the floor, sorry, my dear, I would like to invite the audience to, we have a few questions already, but feel free to leave a few questions to our speakers and comments. I will share it in the end of the session. So go ahead, talk about your main challenges.
Yeah, main challenges. I think Luz gave an overview that pretty much touches the main point. Okay. I think that a first challenge that a company that goes to the Seal of Excellence and maybe on the second or third goes down and then resubmits and goes up, I think that it needs a commanding team. Okay, so you need a CEO, you need a CTO, and even if you have some startups don't have it, but even if you have a CFO, you need to have them fully dedicated, focused, and with eye on the prize on the EIC. There is no other way to say it. It needs to be an objective. It cannot be a parallel activity to the normal startup job, because your goal is to develop the technology, is to increase sales and begin sales and define value chains and so on. But once you define as a target and you feel that you have the technology and the market to go for the EIC, you need to be fully dedicated for that. And that being said, each submission must be considered as a new process. You can have the seal of excellence once, but then on the next cutoff, since you cannot guarantee the same reviewers, you need to look at it from a routing point, and that's tough. That's tough because you need to go an extra mile. You need to try and then identify the identifiable. Okay, because when you make a submission, you think, okay, I did my best. I leave everything that I have right now in this document. So for me, this is it. But you need to look for it and try to be precise on specific targets, because you will not need to change the whole application, but some targets can be improved, and that's the key. Identify the unidentifiable is really difficult, and it takes a lot of effort. So I think that from my experience, above and beyond, the idea is to clarify and simplify, because an EIC proposal is not a full 30 pages completely full of text until the maximum. That is not a guarantee of quality. You can win an EIC with 20 pages, for instance. As long as you have all that you need in the application, it's just a matter of knowing what to write and having the business above and beyond. Okay, so I think those are the main challenges, because what might work in January might not be the same in February, and maybe different in June. So let's just take a look at what is going on in the world right now. So in January, everyone was thinking about financial projections of growth, and then the pandemic came. Okay, so the context and the momentum is a complete challenge that needs to also be taken into consideration in each application. Okay, and I think that those are the main challenges. Once you have the seal of excellence, you already know that you are on the top, so you need to highlight yourself from the top of the top, and that's a challenge.
So and that gives us space to the next question. But before we are launching another pool or another question, because it gives us space, because what we want to know right now from you guys is that, and maybe Veronica in the after you can also share your opinion, is to know few clear topics where you can actually see the difference between those that have the seal of excellence, which are already on the top, as Hugo said, and those that are just, scoring at the end. So few subtopics, but before, let's see, I don't know, our pool. Our backstage needs to share with us the question that is so if any one of you are willing to go on the last cutoff of EIC Accelerator, that will be in October, and then our experts can share a few tips around specific subtopics, envisaging the difference between those of you that have the seal of excellence and those that are finally granted. Okay, can we share the results, please? Okay. It is balanced, right? Between those of you that are considering to apply or resubmitting or either not willing to participate. Okay, so I already launched the question, guys. So the objective here is to clearly list few subtopics that are doing difference, in your opinion, of course, between those awarded with the seal or with the funding of the EIC Accelerator, because, well, this is more, all of them that are awarded seem to have a star stamp or something like that. And the competition is getting stronger and stronger. In the last cutoff, for instance, or not, sorry, in the March cutoff, for instance, we achieved 1.9% of success rate, which is really, really, really competitive rate. And we had like approximately 4,000 proposals being submitted, while in the other, or the previous one in the beginning of the program, were around 1,700. So, okay, Hugo, you can start. So I really like to hear you because you just finished and you are starting now.
Yeah.
And Stephens and Veronica, by this order or any other that you might be convenient, please.
Sure. So results for March were quite so positively in one side and negative on the other, but the word is surprising and not surprising at the same time. What I mean is that it was an increase in participation, a brutal increase in participation, okay, since January, because in January the amount of applications was around 1.9K, okay, and therefore we have more than 100% increase, and that's of course related with the pandemic, okay. So just to give you some KPIs, we had for the first time in March more than 40 countries applying. Okay, so companies from 40 countries were applying for the EIC, and the KPIs that came out were that at least 1 out of 3 companies that submitted got the seal of excellence. So that's quite. We are talking about companies that are really disruptive, but the competition is so fierce that you need to be really on the top of your game. So in March, what also happened was that related with the pandemic, okay, the ecosystem of innovation was affected. So liquidity lacked, and therefore companies had to diversify their opportunities and applied for the EIC. Right now, we are seeing that the ecosystem is picking up again, mostly in the health tech and med tech startups, okay, and then also the online segment that has been increasing a lot. So what I mean is that I lost myself. The question was, sorry, to the start part. Yeah, like I said before, I think it's the team. For me, it's the team, because it's the first part that is discussed and more perceived in the interview, is the team behind the solution. You can have a great solution, you can have a great market, you can have you can tick all the boxes. If you don't have the proper team, the competences, the experience, for example, if you have business experience before, if your CEO or someone on the team have been in the industry or have performed an MBA or something like that. So if you have experience in dealing with VCs and you know the struggles and difficulties that your path will take, I think that's a differentiating factor between first-time appliers, okay, and companies that actually take the award and are able to grow on the topic. I think that I believe I'm a people person. So for me, the CEO and the CTO are the ones that need to have the thrive and that passion that can be easily perceived, and you can trust that they will take the whole journey and take the company from one point to exponential growth part.
Bruna, can you repeat me the question, because I think I understood differently from what Hugo answered. So
yeah, the idea is like, yes, a little bit, because the idea is like, you know, clearly, well, Hugo was talking about the competition and the team to differentiate those that have the seal of excellence and those that are awarded. The idea here is to clearly identify a few subtopics, clear subtopics.
Like
that,
subtopics, like
from your point of view, that differentiate those that are awarded with the seal of excellence.
okay, I see.
Yeah, because all of you are on top.
Yeah.
For instance.
No,
So,
I thought it was more about like industries, like type of industries. Okay.
oh,
No.
Okay. So yeah, in terms of subtopics, I think I would completely agree with in fact what Hugo said in terms of the team, and pretty much show that you have the strength and the way to execute the huge vision that you claim you're going to do. So I clearly would highlight what Hugo said in terms of how will you execute that vision, assuming that the vision has a high degree of innovation and huge impact. So I would say innovation, impact, very important. And then yeah, how are you gonna execute it? And maybe there are many cases, like in our case, that you might not have a complete team, right? So that gives you the opportunity to say, well, I need that investment in order to do some key hires, right? And then you'll include it in the proposal. We've even added some, for example, for us was very important to build the scale of the team in terms of the tech development. So we put in the proposal as an external consultant that we were going to hire someone for HR. So someone that would help us build the culture and the team that we needed. So we didn't mention those things in the proper proposal. And then if I would say the next one after team would be risk management or risk mitigation, right? So if you are able to express in the proposal what are the risks that you foreseen, how are you going to mitigate those risks? And maybe you don't have that much space to write it in the proposal, but that's a good thing to mention when you're on the interview. And IP. So I would say team, risk mitigation, and IP protection. So which could be some of them trade secret, right? So you gotta demonstrate that it's trade secret.
So Stefan, do you have the same opinion, or would you like to highlight?
Maybe I will highlight a few more points. Veronica, you just mentioned the impact, and that's right. I mean, we have to bear in mind that Horizon 2020 aims at generating innovation and tackling societal challenges too. And therefore, it puts a very strong focus on the broader impact of research. So we need to keep that, in the back of our mind, because it doesn't only aim, and especially the EIC, of course, it aims at creating a direct impact for the market, for the company itself, but it's also what are the impacts when it comes to the citizens, to the society, what's the impact of the project for them. We need to keep in mind it's public money too. So we need to demonstrate how the project will have a direct impact or indirect impact on the citizens, on the society. We also need to keep in mind, besides the social impacts, what are the potential, even if low, but what are the environmental impacts of the potential ones? Because the EC has some very specific priorities these days. And this is, we have some clues about it, especially when we can consider that the EIC is supposed to be a bottom-up instrument. So meaning that the topic is flexible, we can propose any kind of topic, though the last open call or the last cutoff was a top-down, and that was about the Green Deal, meaning that the EC is very much also dedicated to see potential environmental impact of the project. So I think we need to really, if not yet done, for those who received the Seal of Excellence, what can help them to gain additional points will be to further extend on the social and environmental dimensions of the project. So that's for one. And the other one is also due to the evolution of the EIC and the new directives and recommendations from the European Commission, where you can also gain some additional points. And that links with what Hugo said. It's with the team. So CEO, CTO, and so on needs to be very much involved in the preparation and the phrasing of the framing, sorry, of the project. But if you do not have a female C-level within your organization, that may cost you some points, and therefore, if you have some, that will help you to gain more, and maybe to move, to this this grade that is providing you with the seal, but not with the grant. Especially because since the last cutoff, so since May, and that's going to be the same for October. That's what we know. We don't know for the future. But the European Commission is really trying to increase the proportion of the support to the companies that are run by women. And basically the women or the companies are invited to Brussels for the personal interview. We know that they should be at least or represent at least 25% of the interviewees, which can make a big difference. So I think those 2 points are to be kept in mind.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Now, Luz, would you like to add something?
Well, I think I agree all that my colleagues mentioned. For me, the starting point is the disruption, of course, the innovativeness of the technology. Now we don't have topics inside the grant, as apart from the Green Deal cutoff for May, but it's all competes with all. You can find a health project, you can find engineering, material, platform, you can find any kind of project. And we know that they don't have a special interest in one of them. Of course, as Stépahnie said, the social impact, the environmental impact of the projects, and the relationship with the European Commission pillars and objectives, of course, are taken as considered, but I think it's not like a subtopic or a disruption required. The important thing is the market creation of these disruptions and to be the top of their niche, the market niche, to be really, really innovative, but also to create a new market or to create new necessities in their target users. And also it's important to keep the impact of the project in Europe, but to have a worldwide approach in the proposals also can help, because at the end it's for the European Commission as investor this grant, so it's important to put an extra in the technological battle, for example, between US or China and the European community. So I think can help this worldwide approach of the disruption of the market, the business, and at the end all counts. Okay, so the team with the idea, but also the impact, all the impacts that the project may have.
Great. Yeah, actually we have a good example of it, of market creation with Didimo. As Veronica said at the beginning, it is something that you don't know you will be willing to buy. And that is a really disruptive factor, not only on the innovation, but on the business disruption and on the market disruption. It is quite incredible. So, okay, guys, the very last question, and these are just to elucidate a little bit our audience about other opportunities that might arise with the Seal of Excellence. So if you are tired to running after the EIC, there are few things that the Seal of Excellence can bring to you. And we believe that more and more, because this is something that the Commission wants to see implemented in each country, which is like similar rules or similar national funding rules for those having the seal of excellence, and to have some kind of public funding, or raise public funding, not directly on the Commission and on this instrument, but on similar or at least complementary ones. So I know that in Spain there isn't any tool like this or instrument, but in Portugal and in France we had some options for those having the seal of excellence. Just for those having the seal of excellence can apply, but there are also other European chances or instruments that might be interesting for you if you are not willing. Well, I'm not trying anymore the EIC, or just to try to raise public funding on other spots. So maybe Hugo and Steph can talk a little bit, and please shortly, because the conversation is very good, but it lasts a little long now, about the national funding in both countries, okay, the opportunities for those having the seal of excellence, and then Luz will talk you maybe one or two instruments that may be an option to the EIC and to help your business, of course. So, Steph, would you like to go first?
Well, yeah, sure, definitely. Well, just to clarify, in France, for our French participants, or for the participants who have a company established in France, there is no automaticity, sorry, between the granting of the label of the Seal of Excellence and the granting of other alternatives. So there are some instruments that exist that are very similar to the EIC with regards to the support that is provided, and also to the process and to the objectives. It's one, I will not get into the details, so if you have any question, then of course I suppose you will get our respective email addresses, so please feel free to contact for further details. But the BPI has an instrument that is called Aide au développement de l'innovation. If I have to translate, it's aid for the development of innovation instrument that can be a good alternative to it. Though again, there is no automaticity between the evaluation. It's not because you got the Seal of Excellence that you can directly get access. So you still have to resubmit a new proposal, let's say. But it's still very, very good to have the seal, and you'll get almost the same advantages.
Okay, great. So here in Portugal is a little bit different, right, Hugo?
Yeah, it's a little bit different. So companies that are awarded with the Seal of Excellence, okay, can submit themselves for, and I'll say it in Portuguese, projetos demonstradores individuais, okay, and basically you transpose the project that you are proposing for the EU for a national level. That requires a quick adjustment. And this is it. The cutoffs, I think we have one open right now, not completely 100% sure, but I think so. And it ends up being a fast track. The seal ends up on being a fast track for national funding, at least in Portugal. So that seal gives you like a stamp of quality and allows you for further opportunities on a national level.
Same for France.
Yeah. Competitive, yeah.
Yes.
So, Luz, probably, okay, maybe you have some national alternatives, and European.
Well, here in Spain, as you mentioned, we don't have a direct grant for those granted with the Seal of Excellence, as we used to have in phase one when they exist for the SM instrument. But normally we work with other grants for focus for startups and SMEs, like for example the open calls that sometimes have the rule to have the Seal of Excellence, but also programs like Hero Stars that has a more success rate than the EIC. That's not difficult at all, and it's also related with the startups at the point at the center of the innovation. So yeah, sometimes we try to just look for the options, national or European level, but it's important to mention at the end, the objective of the Seal of Excellence, that it's help with this award to the companies to be more closer to the investors, private investors like VCs or business angel. We know it's an award that helps with that. So also apart from the public funding, European level, national level, it also helps a lot with the private investment. So I think it's always a good starting point if you are tired to try with EIC.
Okay, great. So we have some questions from the audience, but as we are overpassing an hour, and we don't want to be, how do we say, chatos? It is in Portuguese. And we will finish the session here, and then we will share the doc with the participants with these questions properly addressed. And well, guys, let me thank you all for your availability. It was really nice to hear you. I'm sorry, the three of us colleagues, but especially you, Veronica, always inspiring. And I believe that you did inspire our attendees, and hope to see you in the next opportunity. Maybe to speak a little bit about the pitch, Veronica.
Happy to do that. Yeah. Yeah. I suffered tremendously when I had to do my first pitch for Texas. So I can understand the pain others can go through. So,
yeah. Well, thank you. And in the name of FI Group, thank you all for attending this session. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.